one more time.
They should be
Ready?
Yeah. We'll call the meeting to order. Tiffany, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Garvey. Present. Councilman Brennan.
Present.
Councilman McCain.
Present.
Councilman Green.
Present.
Mayor Sykes.
Present. Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum for the February 13th, 2023 meeting. Run down to department heads really quick. Some are out. I'm sure it's their Super Bowl Monday. So we'll run down to Shasta. What do you got?
Mayor Council, at the last library board meeting, they approved the updated amount of non-resident card. It was a decrease by 29%. So currently, one-year membership is $33.92. That includes tax. Or for 6 months, it's $16.96. And that is for a year, and that is for an individual's household. So not every individual, it's whoever lives in the house, that's the amount they pay for the year. And that includes not just our library collection, but also those that are in the consortium's collection as well. February, this week, our Teen After Hours is going to be an anti-Valentine scavenger hunt. On Thursday, the Friends have their monthly meeting, and they are always looking for more members. Friday is our gaming arcade, and we set up different gaming consoles like Wii and Xbox, and we do team games to help them interact with their peers. Also on Friday evening is our monthly open mic night, partnering with the Literary Arts Committee and the Arts Council. And we had a great turnout last month, so we hope to see that increase and just showcase more local talent. And then Saturday, we have an author talk by local author L.J. Stubbs, and he'll bring his newest sci-fi book for those that would like to purchase a copy as well as get his autograph. And then Tuesday the following week, we have our junior hangouts, and we're doing binary code bracelets. And then Friday, we always have our Chatty Crafters every Friday at noon. And then Saturday is always Chess Club at 1. And then in 2 Saturdays, in the evening at 5 p.m., we are going to do another murder mystery, and this time it is Super Bowl themed, actually. So it's halftime hysteria, and Subway is actually providing all of the sandwiches for us. So we're grateful for their donation as well, and we just ask that people register for that event so that we can get the correct number.
That's fantastic. Chief Moore?
Mayor Sykes, Council. I have 3.5 things. This Friday the 17th through Sunday, returning on Sunday, we have 9 firefighters leaving for the Southern Idaho Fire Academy. Been some good training. They've got record numbers of people, in excess of 400 people attending that training this weekend. Our training calendar is out, our annual training calendar. We finally got that put together. The ink's dried on it. Well, I'm sure that we'll end up making adjustments, but it's a fairly aggressive training calendar. We're hitting some extra Thursdays in there, as well as we're planning quarterly trainings, hopefully acquiring some structures that we can do live fire stuff and that sort of thing. So get more concentrated time quarterly, 4 hours or so to work at different evolutions, doing different things. Thirdly, Our interview for the full-time firefighter position is underway. We've started the first process of that. We've got 2 different sets of interviews to do this week, and anticipate narrowing it down and having another set of interviews from there. Anticipate hiring somewhere in the way of mid-March. Be happy with that. The point 3 is this weekend, Friday night, unfortunately we had a fully involved structure fire. It was rural out off South 18th and Constellation Way. It was fully involved. Wind aided, a lot of stuff in the house, a lot of fuel. One person living at the house. Unfortunately, they lost a dog and 2 cats in the house. He had self-inhalation, but he was tended to by EMS on scene and was not transported, so that's all I have.
Thanks, Chief. Go ahead, Council.
Chief, how many applicants did we receive for that position?
6 total.
6. Were they all internal applicants, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Chief Thompson?
A few things for the PD. The vehicle update looks like we'll be taking delivery of the first batch of new vehicles, hopefully by the end of the month. I haven't got a firm timeline, but the last week of things being put in right now. We will be doing in cooperation with police department, we'll be doing a copy of the top event in late April. More details will come with that in the next month or so. That's the Saturday for us, good opportunity for us to do that in the next 15 minutes. We will be having some applicant testing on the 25th of this month. That's a Saturday. That's a written test and physical ability test. We're 6 bodies done right now, or 7 bodies, so it's important to get some applicants. I think we've got as many as 12 people that have indicated some interest in actually showing up to see what they're doing. Did note that we are about 50 case numbers and about 34 calls to service per month ahead of where we were last year with less staff, so we're looking at another achievement. We just did our annual ICAM use of force leader update this last week with all the officers, and that got checked off. And that's all I've got.
Tiff?
Mayor, that's why I don't have anything.
Paula?
Nothing new.
Counselor?
Nothing, sir.
Council, got anything for the?
Put your gun in the background.
Oh, Betsy.
She seemed prepared today. You almost missed her.
Thanks for that little whisper. I have notes this time. I was waiting for my moment to shine. I even debated, like, should I just, like, come out and just be like, you forgot about me. So, exciting stuff in the communications world. We've done a little bit of, like, shifting and reorganization on project meetings. And the mayor and Tiffany and Paula have kind of brought me in on those initial startup meetings. So now we can get that communication level from the start up, instead of me coming in after the ball's been rolling and try to catch the ball and throw it the right way. So hopefully in the coming year, you guys will see a lot more of that communication from the beginning of that project and a lot more outreach to citizens that we want to achieve. I'm sure you guys saw last week, I did a little video with Chief Thompson, and we took that time to kind of shine on his bio, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback on just kind of taking a minute to get to know Chief Thompson, a little bit about him and all that. So that was exciting, and I've been kind of toying with the idea of maybe we start doing that with a lot of our department heads, back and forth on that. But right now I'm working on State of the City. We'll be recording that at the end of this week, and then we'll launch it beginning of March. And then I'm also working on kind of a official statement, I think, from the city in regards to the casino. I think there's been a lot of talk on the casino, and we haven't made an official statement, which I think is very good. But you guys will be hearing from me because I want to reach out to the council and I want to work with you guys. So we all work together and we come up with what we want and what we want to talk to the public about. So that's kind of it on my front. Questions? Comments? Concerns? I'm just kidding.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There's also something, yeah, thank you. And there's also something really weird happening in front of one of your mics. I think it's either a laptop. Is there a fan
It's
going?
probably a fan right
Your
here.
fan is setting, yeah, the mic is doing some weird stuff right now.
I'll just set it down.
Okay, so I wasn't trying to get you. I was like, when I go out there, I'm also going to investigate the mics.
No, it's blowing like right here. It's
Yeah, it's like, it's fine. It sounds like you have a transformer. It's fine. You just put it on replay. Yeah, you've got a transformer in your pocket. It's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a long word.
Councilman Brennan?
I'd like to just tell everybody before people start to tune out, either in person or online, that this Friday, the Governor Little's doing Capital for the Day down in Bruno. So if you had any questions for your state leaders, I think that's a good opportunity to ask them. I think it runs from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Bruno at the, if I read right, it's the American Legion Hall in Bruno.
There's not many places.
Yeah, so it's not just the governor, but a lot of his staff and department heads and whatnot will be out there too. So,
That's cool.
Just information.
Council, I just saw today when I went to the golf course that they are starting the roof project. And then I just noticed it's snowing outside, so hopefully they got most of it either covered up or whatnot. And then we were working on we had a concerned citizen about a cattle grate that we needed to unfill. Well, it's unfilled. It's where our water tanks are at. I guess some horses have been getting out or whatnot, and so we cleaned it out. It's where I guess you could tell it's been like 20 or 30 years of dust and dirt, and it's finally filled the cattle grate up, and so we went to clean it out. And if you wonder why our backhoe is out at the well 16 and the water tanks. Other than that, I have really nothing. Council got anything? Hearing none, I'll go down to conflict of interest declaration. Has any council member received information pertaining to or otherwise had any contact with any person regarding any item on this council agenda? If so, please set forth the nature of said contact.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Garvey?
I received an email from Misty Pierce concerning G.
G.
I think we all did, Mayor. I did too.
I did as well.
Okay. And what was said contact, I guess?
Email.
Just email?
Email, yeah.
Okay.
Asking us to pull G.
Pull G. Okay. Anything else, council members? Hearing none, then we'll go down to consent agenda. So council members, am I pulling G?
Yes.
Pull G. Pull G. And removed. G. Any comments, questions on the rest of the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Councilman Brennan?
Couple of items. On items J and K, the findings of fact for the Albertsons property. Just like to make a change through interlineation that that was a 3-0 vote instead of a 4-0 vote. Let me find the paperwork here real quick. And on the fair housing resolution that we have, near the bottom on said program, it talks about preparing a fair housing assessment. What does that look like? The cost? Is it simply a document, or is there a lot of labor involved with that?
Do you know on that one?
I would have to ask Jamie, Mayor, unfortunately. I do know that it came directly out of LEAP, and it's exactly what was signed in 2017 when we did it the first time.
So no changes.
So we already have this, and why are we redoing it if it's already in place?
You have to update it.
Okay. How often?
Well, 2017 was the last time we did it, so from then to now.
It's every 5 years.
Is this a resolution to help LEAP housing come to fruition?
I don't believe so, no. It's regarding some of their funding.
Okay. And do we already designate April as such, since this is a renewal essentially?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. I came in just for clarity here. I came in and asked the mayor about the bucket truck that we're looking at surplusing. I guess there's some safety concerns with it with an inspection that was done, so my questions are answered on that. And then, Mayor, I'd like to pull item L as well. And finally, got a few things here. On item H, this is the request from Parks to purchase a new, or lease purchase a new truck. I had a kind of a private conversation with Miguel on this, asking about the reason for going from the requested need from a a backhoe attachment to our current Kubota tractor. I guess it all boils down to that they're so backed up on fulfilling orders that he has no time. I guess they haven't given a solid time other than no less than 8 months out. But he also did identify that this was not a requested budgeted item on his budget, so he's essentially switching from one item to another. So I'm a little hesitant on that. However, he said all of the trucks within the Parks Department are paid off with the exception of one. I haven't verified that, but I'll trust that that's the truth on that. Does anybody else have any information about Kubota? Or I asked the question, sorry, no one could really answer it. Is that, are we just looking like within the Treasure Valley for this item, or regionally or nationally?
Mr. Mayor, if I can help with that. I think it's nationally because Jake at the golf course is having the exact same effect. He's trying to order equipment and he's 2 years out.
Okay.
So I think it's a national shortage.
Okay. And then I guess he had, I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I think was it $15,000 in his line item for this item. The backhoe attachment was supposed to be about 9. So he said ultimately if he could get both he'd like to, but he'd have to pull from other line items to find it. So I don't know if anybody else cares or wants to pull it. I don't think I need to pull it right now.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Garvey?
are you talking about P or H? H doesn't have anything to do with a tractor.
Well, in his memo it does.
Oh,
He,
okay.
uh,
Okay, I see.
yeah.
I see. Okay. Yes. I don't have any questions.
Alright.
Councilman Brennan?
So everybody else is quiet, so I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda, pulling items G and L, and a change through interlineation on page 5, paragraph 8 of the findings of facts for the Albertsons property to indicate a 3-0 vote rather than a 4-0.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilwoman Garvey?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
All right, we'll run down to new business. There was nothing, well, I guess there was something removed. We'll go to item G, and item G is approve the request allocated American Rescue Plan funds to the Water and Fiber Optics Department. Council?
Mayor,
Councilwoman Garvey?
can you explain why you're not wanting to go the LID funding route?
I am doing
Getting,
that.
getting your private loan to whoever you said was all set up? I don't know, you guys were, I don't think it was Wells Fargo Bank, you were gonna get the $1.4 million from?
No, so, okay, we talked about the American Rescue Plan funds using it, so if you go to a bank, and then you gotta do a draw, there's a fee attached to it, right? And so, when Bruce was here, he said, if I were you guys, I would use it, your ARPA funds, to fund all the LIDs, every single LID. Not subsidize, to use that to pay for the first LID, then you go to the bank, then the bank pays back the construction loan, which is the LID, and then you use that LID fund again, or the ARPA fund again, or actually it's no longer ARPA fund, it's into the, or let's just keep the, I'll just call it the ARPA fund. Then you take that ARPA fund, use it for the second LED, go out to the bank, pay that one back, that construction loan. We're just trying to alleviate fees, bank fees, higher interest rates, all that kind of stuff.
How much is the bank fee?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question.
Mayor, council, if I recall right, Bruce said every time we needed to make a draw, it'd at least be, I thought he said roughly almost $1,500 in fees. Doesn't that seem right?
Right, and
And we'd at least make 2 draws monthly.
2 draws monthly, because we do pay the bills, well, it's bill run, pay the bills and payroll. So it's the bill run and payroll. So we have 2 council meetings a month, so it's 2. And then the payroll would be included in 1. I made that so confusing.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Garvey?
So was this through Wells Fargo, or who'd you guys talk to? Who told you this besides Bruce?
Bruce.
So he did it, he had it at his bank that he was charged this $1,500 every time?
He had, that's what they were, well, they funded it with, so their council gave Bruce $1 million to start it, you know, and then that's what he uses, you know, the $1 million, if correct me if I'm wrong, girls, to start that project. And then obviously the LEDs paid that back, you know what I mean? So now he still has the first $1 million that he put in, right?
Okay, so Mayor, what I'm hearing you say is that you want to take these funds, pay 3% interest over 15 years to the city, but that you're still going to go to the bank and get a loan. So we're still going to have LED funding every time we do a draw. We're going to have to go get a second loan, correct?
So this first LED is a construction loan. And then what happens is once the LED closes, that LED has to go to the bank, ask for a loan to pay that LED off.
Okay, so I understand the premise of a construction loan. So this has to be in the form of a construction loan? We can't just get the 1.4 million from the bank?
That's good. I guess we could ask a bank.
Okay. All right. Can I continue?
I just
Yeah.
texted that to Stephanie, anticipating.
I was just gonna say, so maybe we just ought to get her on the phone, because I have lots of questions.
Okay.
So, I spent a good portion of my morning reading 437 pages of the final notice. And I guess I'll start with, I got some numbers today that honestly, as a taxpayer, were kind of shocking. And I'll speak as a taxpayer and then I'll speak as a council person. The city since 2018 has spent $1.4 million on just infrastructure and equipment. Of the 1.4 million, there was some grant money, I understand that, and you did say that I didn't get that dollar amount. In addition to the $1.4 million that the city has spent, out of mostly water availability and wastewater availability funds, which is our new infrastructure money that we need, $330,000 of that is salaries paid out. Does not include our benefits. That was just gross salary. So it's kind of startling that we've spent that much money and we are still here 2023 and we're not really there yet. So my question is, how much more money are we going to spend out of our budget? Further going into this lovely document that I read today, I have lots of questions. Okay. Specifically, the use of the funds for a debt service.
Hold on, I haven't called her yet.
Oh, okay.
You want me to call her?
Well, can you answer it? You
She's
can
the
try.
expert.
Do you know, well, you, I mean.
Well, I could
okay.
probably answer a
Yeah,
bit of it, but
probably.
she'll probably say. "No,
Whatever you
Victor,
feel
you're wrong."
comfortable. It's fine, whatever you feel comfortable with. I just have lots of questions, so.
Hey, Steph, you're in the city council meeting now.
Hello.
Okay. Hello. I'll refrain from using any swear words, hopefully.
Well, I will too then.
That's a first.
Yeah, it'll be a first for me.
Okay, so Stephanie, I have a couple questions. I read the final notice today, and it just referred to a lot of, excuse me, the final rule. It referred to a lot of questions on restrictions on use of debt service. So, in particular, and I apologize, I have lots of notes here, so I might just bounce around a little bit. So, the government services would not include any interest or principal on any outstanding debt instrument, including, for example, short-term revenue or tax anticipation notes or fees on issuances, costs associated with the issuance of a new debt. So what I'm trying to figure out is if we use this ARPA money, is this, because these are specifically items that are excluded from the use of this ARPA money.
And is the issuance of a new debt by funding the LID with this money, does that fall under this statute?
No, because the city, this is a debt of the LID.
Okay.
It is an investment by the city.
Okay.
So the city is purchasing the band. It's not issuing the band. So it's no different than if the city was going to go out and buy a CD. So that's essentially what you're doing here. That's what the 3% interest rate is. So the city is earning 3%. It is investing in the LID.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
But it's not creating any debt on the city's behalf.
Okay. So it also further says, interest payments received prior to the end of the period of performance will be considered in addition to the total award and may be used for any purpose that is eligible use of funds under the statute and final rule. And then it further goes in to say that that interest that's paid has to be used in a manner of what the ARPA does not exclude. So does that have the same principle of, so if we pay ourselves 3% interest, that interest has to be spent within a certain amount of time. I think they're giving us until 2026. 2026, yeah. So that interest, what I'm reading that is to state that interest has to be spent on ARPA funded items, water, sewer, wastewater.
Correct. So what they're saying is you can't take ARPA money, invest it in, let's say, a CD, because it works the same, just for sake of discussion, invest it in a CD, and then use the interest for whatever you want.
Okay.
Basically, you know, and not stealing, but they're saying you can earn interest on the ARPA money, but if you do that, you still can only use it for ARPA projects.
Okay.
You aren't allowed to take it and put it in your general fund and buy fireworks.
Right. Okay.
You know.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So, furthermore, okay. So the other thing that it said about the debt service and reserve replenishment costs do not constitute the provision of services to constituents. As noted in the interim final rule, financing expenses such as issuance of debt or payment of debt service do not provide services or aids to the citizens.
Right. So what that's saying is if you had your ARPA funds and the city was going out and doing a project, the city could not use some of those ARPA funds for a reserve fund because you wouldn't be spending them. They'd just be sitting there. So, but again, this doesn't apply. Well, I mean, it applies for the spending of ARPA funds, but it doesn't apply to this ban because, again, this is just an investment for the city. You are not spending ARPA funds in this particular instance.
Okay. So the interim final rule provided that the funds may be used for costs incurred beginning March 3rd, 2021, which Treasury has maintained in the final rule. Use of funds for debt service or indebtedness issued prior to March 3rd, 2021 necessarily entails using funds for costs incurred during prior time periods rather than present response to the public health emergency and its negative impacts or to provide government services. So it has a fine timeline of when this money, from what I'm reading, correct me if I'm wrong. Of note, these funds may be only used beginning March 3rd, 2021, with all the funds obligated by 2024, and these funds could not have been set forth prior to March 3rd of 2021, which we started this project in 2018.
Okay, well, again, like I said, so that's the LID project, not the city project.
Okay.
What this is saying is the city could not take those ARPA funds and pay off like a 2010 sewer revenue bond.
Right, I understand.
Or yeah, so again, you gotta you've got two different hats here. The LID is actually a separate political subdivision, so it's not the city. So, I mean, the city is loaning money to the LID. You just have to make sure you get that money back and have it spent by that 2024 deadline on an ARPA project.
Okay, and that being the key, you have an incoming phone call.
Does that make sense? So all these restrictions are to the city's spending of the ARPA. Right now, the city's not spending the ARPA. It is investing the ARPA. And then once the LID, we sell the bond and we pay off the city, then the city will have those ARPA funds back, and then you'll need to make sure that you spend them by that 2024 deadline on an ARPA project.
Glad I didn't hit anything. I'm sorry.
Does that make sense?
I'm sorry. Yes, our legal counsel was receiving another phone call and it threw me off.
From my ex-wife.
From his ex-wife. How
I
about,
should have taken that.
Okay.
Let him know he doesn't have to answer it.
yes, exactly. Okay, so I think for now, I think that answers some of my main questions. As far as where you're concerned, I appreciate it. I have other thoughts, but I'll let the council talk to you. Maybe they have questions for you as well.
Okay?
I'll ask a question. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilman Brennan.
This stuff's all pretty new for me too, even being up here for about 5 years, but what exactly are we doing here? The city is taking out a loan and
No.
loaning it to the LID, or the LID is taking out a loan and giving it to the city?
The LID is taking out a loan. The city is buying a note which pays 3% interest. So like I said, think of it like the city is doing the equivalent of purchasing a CD from the LID. So all the city is doing is it's making an investment that's going to pay it 3% interest with ARPA funds. So like I said, it does have to get those funds back and spend it on an ARPA project, but it's not incurring any debt. It's not paying any interest. It's not paying anything. The LID is the one that's borrowing money. And it's borrowing money from the city rather than borrowing money from the bank. Now, if we could sell that note to a bank, but you would pay, your constituents would pay higher interest, they would pay higher transaction fees, and of course the city wouldn't get the benefit of earning 3%, that some random bank would. So the fact that the city is in a position to loan the LID money is actually a win-win for both your citizens in the LID and for just your general citizens of the city itself.
When you say that the LID is like a separate, I forget the words,
Political subdivision.
Political
It's
subdivision.
a separate district, yes.
And who owns that? The people within it?
Well, it's, the city is the governing body, but you're the governing body sitting as the LID board. Kind of like when the county commissioners sit as the board of assessment or something like that. So even though the board is the same, it's very similar to if a city had a URA and the council members served on the URA. It's a separate political subdivision. It is considered separate from the city, but the fact that you may have members that serve on both boards, they're still separate. One's a district, one's a city. So even though you guys run the LID and you created the LID, the district, like a sewer and water district, it doesn't have quite as much power, but it really is a separate political subdivision, which is why the debt of the LID is not a debt of the city.
But since it is the same board in this case, the 4 council members here and the mayor, if something goes sideways with the LID, what's the ramifications to the individual council members, or I'm paying the debt back?
None to the city, none to you guys. The only if anything were to happen to the LID, the collateral for the LID is the underlying property within the LID. So they can't come after the general fund, they can't come after the city, they can't come after council members. If there was a default on the note or a default on the bond later on, then basically, we go after the people who didn't pay their assessment, and their property is collateral for that. But there's no risk to the council people or no risk to the citizens in general.
And it's the city that goes after the property owners if they don't pay their debt?
It's the LID, but obviously the admin staff is the same. So on behalf of the LID, you'd go after the people. But what you would do is, and this has never happened, although theoretically it could, you can actually foreclose on the property for the assessment. Even a mortgage company is not going to allow you to do that. So even if you had somebody who had a mortgage on their property and they didn't pay the assessment, if we give notice, the mortgage company would pay the assessment before they'd let us foreclose and sell the property, because the LID lien has priority over any prior mortgage. It just doesn't, it's got, an LID probably has, unless it's just bare unimproved ground and it's a huge LID, it's the most solid credit you have, because the assessment by law has to be less than what the property is worth.
So the LID like goes after itself though, right? Like you don't close the LID until everybody has received the service, in this case the fiber connections to their home. Is that right so far?
Right. So what we do is they have 30 days. We come up with the assessment number. So say it's $5,000. Once we have the assessment all done and all the costs, the project is done, and reallocate the costs among the property owners have 30 days to pay that off in full. If they do that, then they don't have any bond transaction fees and they don't have any interest fees. Anybody who has not paid off that assessment within the 30 days is automatically considered to then be on essentially a payment plan, and the city will sell a bond for a certain period of time that you guys could decide on. Part of that will depend on how big the amount is, how long you want it to go out, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. And then basically the bond will pay off the rest of those assessments, and then those people will essentially have a yearly payment, and they can pay that assessment over time with interest. So they have the choice of paying it in full with no interest, or if they don't pay it in full, they're automatically going to pay it off over time with interest. But at any time, if they sell or if they get some money, they have a right to go ahead and pay off what they have remaining and just have to pay interest through their payoff date.
And if legal action is required on somebody who intentionally defaults and refuses to pay, the rest of the members within that LID will have to pay that legal battle?
Only if the property did not bring enough money to pay the assessment, which should not happen.
Can you tell me why or rephrase that?
If you, so say, because I don't think we're talking huge assessments here. You've got a $5,000 assessment, but one of the houses that the LID is on is a meth lab. So we can't actually, that property becomes so contaminated that we can't sell it for $5,000. We can't sell it for anything because it's worth nothing, because it's going to cost more to clean it up than it's worth. That really is the only example I could think of, because you're in a situation in which the property, and you don't have to worry about mortgages or anything else or any other liens. Your lien comes first. So it's really the situation in which a property is not worth as much as the assessment is. And that can only happen if something changes, because when we do the assessment roll, we're not allowed to assess a property for more than it's worth. And obviously, it's often much, much less. I mean, you're talking, a $5,000 assessment, again, making up numbers, on a $150,000 property.
How quick would a bank just pay us that lien amount to avoid the ramifications or legal stuff?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. Like I said, if there's a mortgage on it, they're not going to let you foreclose. They're going to pay it, and then they'll go after the homeowner themselves.
Notice of foreclosure, and it'll be within 30 days after that.
I see like big dollar signs getting an attorney involved for each home that may choose to do this, to basically go put a default on their default note on their mortgage or a lien or whatever. It just adds to the cost, and I guess if everybody else who wants to be part of the club agrees to pay that, then
Well, like I said, I've never, in 25 years of doing this, I've never had to foreclose on a property. And certainly never had to then foreclose on a property had it not pay off the assessment and then have to assess everybody else. I mean, theoretically it's possible. But like I said, the only way that could happen is if the property becomes so devalued, it's not even worth the assessment. And that, like I said, that has nothing to do with the mortgage. That's the underlying value of the property even without a mortgage. I mean, even like I said, the city, the LID gets its money if it forecloses before any money goes to the mortgage company.
So you're telling me, I'm rephrasing here, that there's no risk to the city or its citizens by buying this note from the LID?
Correct.
Zero. Or 0.1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
0.1. I mean, like I said, if a meteorite came down and wrecked your entire city and all the properties are now completely worthless and the assessment is still out there, that could be the 0.1%. But, I mean, short of that, there is no risk.
That's possible, though. A meteor is probably heading right at Councilman Brennan.
Balloon.
You've seen how much stuff's floating in the air right now.
What about
Or, you know, if a weather balloon came down on the city, you know.
Councilwoman Garvey.
Okay, Stephanie, I have a couple more questions while we were chatting. I thought about this. So, okay, just to make sure I understand you correctly. So we've amortized this loan out for 15 years.
Not the note. The note is just the interim financing.
Right, but the annual schedule that we got in our council packet is amortized for 15 years.
Well, that will be if the city decides, okay, so like I said, right now the ban is just going to pay for the interim financing. Then when the project is done, the LID will sell a bond to pay off the interim financing.
Okay, so
At that point, the city can decide if the city wants to buy the bond or if the city wants to sell the bond, and that's the 15-year instrument, to a bank. So right now, we're only talking about the interim financing. I can't remember what the maturity date is, 1 or 2 years or something like that. So it's not till the project is done that we sell a bond.
Okay, right. So the information that we received in our packet is the 1.2 million amortized on 15 years at 3%. But we have to have a plan to get this paid off by 2024.
2026.
No, 2024.
Right. So
Allocated by 2024.
yeah. So like I said, the note's not 15 years. The note will just be for the project length.
Right.
Okay, so what happens if we take this money, this 1.2 million, we move it over into our construction loan, and we don't have a take rate enough to sustain everybody, or we bust our LID amounts, or we bust our amount that we told that our consumers that it would cost?
Okay, well, I mean, the LID project is, we give an estimate, but it's going to cost what it's going to cost. So if it ends up costing more, then people will pay more. The assessment will be higher than you estimated. So the LID has to sell a bond to pay off the cost of the project and the interim financing. And that amount is whatever amount it is.
I was under the understanding that we couldn't go higher than what we all decided it was 1.5.
No, that's not right now, all you're doing is putting that 1.2 in the construction fund, but if the project ends up costing more, then the LID will need to get more interim financing, which could be from the city or could be from a bank. But you're not limited to an amount. What is approved for the LID is a project. Now, you could choose to scale that project back if, things cost more or whatever, so you could make changes to the project. But the LID has legal authority to complete the project no matter how much it costs.
Okay. I'll just continue. This has really nothing to do with Stephanie, just some thoughts. I would like to see, before we decide where this money goes, I would like to know what's the plan from the fire department to use, or the city actually, not the fire department. I would like to know what the plan is for that interest money and where it's gonna go and where it's gonna be used towards ARPA-approved projects before we decide. Because I'd like to see a plan. I'd also like to know how long it's gonna take, how long this construction loan's gonna take, how much are we estimated to have interest paid into it, and where we could use that money. Her dog. It's cracking me up.
Now they want to know what kind of dog you have.
Yeah.
That noisy one. It's his dinner
Cute.
time. He's like, wait a minute, guys.
So the other thing I would like to know is what if we don't get an LID number 2, which is going to pay off the LID number 1? What if we don't have any more takers after this? What if we don't have anything that's,
No, the construction loan will pay off the LID. Or the
no?
bond
Yes.
is going to
Okay.
pay off the LID. And then that money comes back and sits in.
So what's the plan? Are we going to hold the bond? Are we going to send the bond out? Is the city going to buy back the bond?
Well, that will be up for discussion with the council if you want to buy the bond, which I don't know if we have any money to buy 1.2 million in our general fund, which I don't think we do. So I would assume that we'd go to a bank for the
The
LID.
other kind of my final thoughts on using this money. We just had a meeting last Wednesday talking about that we need to plan sewer lagoon number 10. That's going to be $7 to $10 million. The projects that were put off, College Park and Tyndall Avenue, because they were too much money, because their water lines have asbestos and they need to be repaired and replaced, and the bids came in too high. Why is this money not being looked at now towards expanding onto some of those projects that we are now going to put off again, College Park especially, and Tyndall? So I understand, because I always was under the premise that you said we're going to go out and get a loan. We're going to go get the construction loan, whatever, everything's fine. Okay, so now again, we're back to moving ARPA money out of what we have all kind of expressly agreed where we want, well, besides Councilman Green, but so now we have, in my mind, 3 projects: College Park, Tyndall Avenue, a sewer lagoon, not to mention we still don't really know what's going to go on with well number 17. So why are we taking this tranche of money that we have that we could really put to good use? And one last final comment, and I'll just leave it at this. The ARPA funds, in reading what the Treasury really wanted to see this money go towards, is that the interim final rule limited eligible broadband investments to delivering service to the underserved or unserved locations, defined as households or businesses that lack a wireline connection capable of requiring that. So it said over and over in this 470-page document that this money, they wanted to see this money go towards people who were impacted by COVID, who are underserved, who couldn't afford internet, who couldn't afford that. Oh, she's,
Texting?
yeah, she's gonna go, yeah. That's what I was wondering, unless you guys have any other questions, and I'll stop. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Can I
Oh,
ask one while she's on real quick?
Steph, can you answer one more question before you go?
Yeah, I just have a meeting at 7, so I just wanted to kind of warn everybody.
Last question that you may or may not be able to help with is, with today's interest rates, 3% seems really low for U.S. prime. Are we able to like double that? Sorry, dumb question.
Yes. Yeah, no, I would say, Yeah, I mean, easily with fair market rates, because before rates went up, LIDs, I'd usually see interest rates around 5.5, and this was a couple of years ago. So definitely with the increase in interest rates, yes, the city could charge a 6% interest rate, and that would still be a fair market value rate.
We just get to pick the city just gets to pick that number? Oh.
Well, if at some point, if it wasn't like anywhere near fair market, I would warn you about it. At that point, there'd be at least an argument that the LID is not acting in the fiduciary is not fulfilling their fiduciary duties. If they let you charge them like 20%. But as long as you're in the realm of fair market value, and especially because you're not going to have any transaction fees, I'm comfortable that 6% is a fair market value rate.
Or can you have a sliding like quarterly number that might jack things up based on U.S. prime?
Yeah, you could definitely do a variable rate. We just have to tie it to an index, but yes, that would be possible as well. And if you wanted to do that, so if you want to change the interest rate or you want to go to a variable rate or something, you could still adopt the resolution. You would just amend it. So you would say, I adopt resolution with the amendment to change the interest rate to 6%. And you could do that at the meeting tonight, or obviously if you're not ready to make that decision, you could wait as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Okay, so Mayor.
Yeah, and then feel free, like if something else comes up, just have Fitz text me, and I can always jump out or text something back if something else comes up that I can answer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steph.
No problem. Thanks, you guys.
And say goodbye to the dog.
From all of us. The other question, and this is it probably does fall in these categories. Does the broadband infrastructure investment project, it services households, they either have to participate in the Federal Communications Commission or Affordable Connectivity Program, do they?
That's an ISP, I thought. That has to be a part of that. We're not an ISP.
Okay. All right, so let me just say this then. I would like to just make a motion that we table this until we have more answers to some of these questions, because clearly you cannot answer them all as well. And I would also like to know what is the plan for the interest that we're going to receive.
The interest would have to go back into, and correct me if I'm wrong, back into that enterprise fee, right?
It could be used for any enterprise fund.
Not
That
any.
is not what this says.
It'd have to go back
This
into
says-
the fiber enterprise
Yes.
fee.
No, it says this money has to go back into, and she just said that, this money has to go and be spent on an ARPA-approved
Correct.
project.
Correct, which is the broadband.
Water, sewer, or.
Right.
Okay, so I want to know, what is the plan? What is our plan going forward for this money? Because we're going to earn interest, we're going to have a good amount of money. Where are we going to spend it?
Okay.
What Stephanie was trying to convey to you guys is that 1.2 you'd be using now, you're gonna have 1.2 coming back to you plus whatever the 6% raise, and so you'll still have that money. And even if you don't have enough customers to do it, then that bond would come out, that would be paid by the customers to finance it. And so you're correct, you'll be getting the 1.2 plus 3% of whatever that was during that timeline, and then you could use it for any ARPA-approved enterprise fund.
In Council Brent, to yours is, could you do 6%? We just wanted to make sure it was better to our citizens for that rate. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, let's get them 20%. Because right now we're getting 2.5% on the money right now. Mm-hmm. So we was like, well, three is good. Maybe it's 4. I don't know. You know what I mean? So that's why we didn't go prime plus 2% or whatnot.
And Mayor, I'm on my phone, but I'm just looking up the U.S. prime rate as to what that is. on today's quarter anyways.
Right, and then the interest that we do charge does go to the citizens. So,
It goes back into that fund that she's talking about, isn't it?
yeah.
If I'm reading it right, it looks like today's prime rate is today it's quarterly is 7.75. And, we haven't seen a decrease in that for a long time. It doesn't mean one is not coming, but, I think more than 3, if we proceed with this, more than 3 would be appropriate. I also don't know that I want to cause a whole lot of work by tying it to what'd you call it?
Index?
An index, yeah. But maybe a annual adjustment to prime or a every 6-month adjustment.
The only thing you can't do is willy-nilly change it once it's been entered into. So when you pick it, you have to pick the basis upon which it'll be calculated in the future. So either it's flat 6, 4, 3, or whatever it is, or it's 3 plus prime, or whatever it is, and just define it in the beginning, and then it's fine.
And Stephanie mentioned that, if I heard her right, that her average of what she sees is about 5 to 5.5%.
Right now.
Did I hear that right?
Right now.
Yeah.
But it's changing.
Okay.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Garvey.
correct me if I'm wrong, but if we increase the interest rate, that just means it's more cost that we're gonna have to pass to the people who are trying to spend under $5,000 for internet.
Correct.
Okay. So, also, I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around, so we did a resolution of $1.4 million. We were not going to exceed that in LID number 1. 1.4 million, and we wouldn't exceed, this has been the dang fiber. Can we just finish our project? Okay, so I felt like it was like we had to have an 3,500 to no max of 4,500. Okay, so if we have a higher interest rate and it's going to cost more, then how are we going to pay off the LID?
The construction loan?
Right, I know the construction loan is gonna get it going,
Well, no,
But if
the
it's gonna
bond
be
is gonna
more
pay off
cost-
the LID.
but if it's gonna be more cost to the citizens,
So when we close it all out, that'll be the number that everybody knows that's what it is. Either you pay it off right then in 30 days, or you amortize it over however long you guys set forth. Is it 10 years, is it 15 years?
so at that point,
It's
do you
an
make
estimate
those,
now.
do you make those people sign a contract that says you're not gonna back out?
What do we do on that one again?
So, because if you only get 25 people, they finally say, you know what, I can't afford it and I got Starlink, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna pay this back? Right now, you have a take rate of 50% or whatever. So if you get people that say, you know what, sorry, we found other internet, we're not signing up, how are you gonna pay this back?
Well, I guess the thought process was, as it said, you said you go out and at the end of the day, the price is what the price is, numbers don't lie, right? So that's what everyone will
So
have to
sorry
pay.
if it's gonna cost you 5,500 versus the 4.
Actually, it can't be over, what was it, can't be over
That was 4,500.
4,500
Thank you, that's
bucks.
what I was asking. So if we have more costs and it costs more and people decide they don't wanna do it, and we only have 25 people, how are we gonna pay the construction loan back?
Oh, the bond, and then whether it's, a bond will do it, and then again, what Stephanie was saying is that if you have a $150,000 property, whether it's 3,500 or 4,500 or 5,500, it'll be assessed against those properties.
Even if they don't take the internet?
If they're in the LID, that means they voted.
No, okay,
Don't
that's
they
not my
take
question.
it?
That's not my question. Right now, we have 50% take rate. How many people? 423, approximately. Yes?
You bet.
Okay. So what if 423 and 150 drop out? And we're counting on those 423 people to sign up for our internet that we're providing. But 150 drop out somewhere between now and construction loan period in the next year and a half, that was what they said, is it's gonna take that long.
Wouldn't they have already signed up?
That's my question. What are they signing?
They have to sign a note that they want it, and then
Yeah.
we're going by. It's like, hey, either sign up now or we're gonna go right by. And if you sign up, then you're saying that you want
Once
it.
you, what is the
And we're
obligation?
obligated.
Is there a back out fee? I mean, most contracts have
There is
a
no
sort of
backup
a,
fee. You're part of the LID at that point.
So
And
you're obligated
it's
to pay it.
putting- It's at your door.
thank you for answering my question. That was what I was asking. How is it going to be paid? Okay.
So there's a, Councilor Brennan.
Your team's shaking their head over here.
Yeah, you guys got something to add
What
here?
are our numbers you're wanting to tell us?
Right now we're 362 out of, I think it was like 719 or something like that. So we're just over 50%. It's like 50.34%. That's total LID of all 4 neighborhoods.
And by the calls that we've been getting, they're asking when. No one has ever asked us, I don't want it. They're asking, I need it. So I don't
Yeah.
see any reason why anyone would drop out. 150 people dropping out is unrealistic.
I think-
Everyone wants it, no one's dropping out.
Do those 362 people, have they all signed
Yep.
the
Informed.
opt-in?
Their house is dotted, that's what we're going off of, that's the percentage. No one has called saying, no thanks.
Paul, of those 362, they're locked in.
They're locked in.
Well, it doesn't matter
Whether
after
they use it or
we,
not,
okay.
Or get it or not.
I'd like to read that form and what it says. I'd have to get a copy of that. Mayor?
We couldn't get.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We couldn't even get the ban, if that wasn't in place.
So within the last, I'd easily venture to say 6 months, maybe probably not to a year, but we were hovering at what, 45%? And so with that last 6 months, 9 months, we've only had a 5% growth.
It's slowed down because the project keeps getting pushed out. People don't know if it's coming. They're not gonna waste their time going to the city page to fill out an opt-in form until they know it's coming.
Once we break ground, you'll see that 50% jump.
Yeah.
History has shown over and over and over and over in every where that's gone. Once you break ground, people are like, all right, now I know. And then all that's gonna do is drop, like per citizen, all it's gonna do is drop per citizen. So you're not gonna lose people. You're gonna gain people.
And at what point of the whole time frame from now until project completed, do they get to opt in to the point where it lowers everybody else's assessment?
Until the project closes, people
Or
are
we
out.
pass their house.
Once you've passed their house?
Yeah, because we're
Not
gonna
going
be on to the
backwards.
next house. If we keep jumping back, that's what we're gonna have, like, our guys we hire, we can go 2 blocks ahead, be like, hey, we're gonna be passing your house soon. If you want it, opt in. If you don't, you're gonna be out of the LID, which if you want it later, you have to pay in full. You're not gonna be able to have the benefit of paying,
Advertising it.
advertising it, so,
And at that 50% take rate, that construction fee is nowhere near 4,500.
yeah.
With Bruce, what he worked out with his spreadsheet, that construction fee's at 3,500. So anywhere higher than we go from here gets us closer to $3,000 to $2,500.
And now we've fully decided on a entire city personnel team doing it?
Yeah, remember the bids came back so astronomical that when Bruce broke it down for us, we were to hire, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, 6 guys, 6 girls, whatever it was, and breaking those into 3 groups.
And we're saving like $1.3 million or something with us doing it versus Crown came in, they could throw everybody at it, but their bid was like whatever, $1 million.
And it probably sounds random, but I'm tying it in, is our town appears to be being taken over by outside fiber people right now. Who are they working for? Who's their customer?
Syringa, CenturyLink, I don't know.
Viasat.
I know, we know the
Starlink.
drilling crews that are doing the work, we don't necessarily know who they're doing it for. But from what we understand, it doesn't seem to be a company that's trying to get fiber to residents. Their best interest is, or their interest is with businesses, the base, or things like that.
And CenturyLink is, on some of the new houses, CenturyLink is jumping off of onto Quantum. I think in some of the houses that we have put our fiber in, they've already, I think 1 or 2 have already jumped off of Quantum and onto ours because they have seen drops in Quantum, they have seen issues with
And they're brand
some
new
of our,
houses.
brand new houses, and they've already seen issues with them. We have 30 houses hooked up and we've never had a call for a problem. So they see that ours is cheaper and more reliable, So they have jumped off of Quantum and onto ours like on a Sipiter and stuff, so. And we have houses hooked up, we've never had a really call like, hey, we've had a drop, and if there is, it's on the ISP side. Nothing's been wrong with our side so far. So,
Mayor.
Councilwoman Garvey.
The other thing, Paul, I would like you to look into, this was mentioned a lot in this final ruling, is that the recipients are encouraged to use strong labor standards in water, sewer, and broadband. It goes into detail of what the strong labor standards are, so I want to make sure that we're following that for these guys. It's higher pay. It was just a list of things, so I want to make sure that if we do end up funding, well, actually, they have to anyway, regardless. If we use the ARPA money, we have to follow this.
We got to.
Yeah, we have to follow the strong labor standards, so I'd like to look into that as well.
What our hourly rate would be.
Yeah, it was that these guys, I mean, they get paid way more because they're basically taking care of the impact that COVID has had on the people, whether it be water, sewer, or garbage. So not garbage, sorry. You know what I'm saying.
Councilmember, there's a motion made to table this. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I'll second it. I'm never one to like to proceed without having the answers, and I'd hate to push that on anybody else, so I would back up Councilwoman Garvey's motion to table it.
It's been motion and second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the question. Councilwoman Garvey?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
All right.
Councilman McCain?
Nay.
Councilman Green?
Nah.
Hey, no shocker.
Do I have any other things for item G?
So I'll make a motion to approve the requested allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Water and Fiber Optics Department.
We don't have a quorum vote yet, so we can't do that.
Yeah, you got to vote, yeah.
Yeah, you got to vote. And if you just ask that if I have a question or another comment, then yes, I do.
Sorry.
On G.
Sorry. My vote is nay.
Okay. Mayor?
Councilwoman Garvey?
My last comment on, as far as, which obviously, if the vote doesn't go my way, it's okay. That's why we're all up here and we're all aboard, okay? But I encourage you to do your research on some of these other projects that haven't been funded, like asbestos in water, the well, the sewer. I encourage you to do your research on some of these other items too, so. Final comment.
Mayor?
Councilman Brennan?
What do we do if we can't find the trained, qualified staff to do the work ourselves?
We'll open that up. Council. Hey, Kyle, you wanna?
I would just say that I came into this with very limited amount of background, and I have been trained by other professionals around, like Vermeer or those guys. Me and Danny can train anyone that comes and get them up to speed. That's what we have already been planning on, is that the people that are coming on, all they're doing is labor stuff, the drilling, restoring, potholing. We already planned on training a zero experience person and getting them up to speed. The same, Danny, when he started, had zero experience, and now he's level with everyone else that's in the department, so we are going to train everyone. We'd like to get some people that have some backgrounds, but we will train everyone that comes on board so they work how we work, so.
It's still assuming you get a labor force.
Yeah, we have people that have been, I've got 2 guys that have been contacting me for the last 3 months asking when they've got applications turned in, and they're asking when it's gonna be turned on. Some guys that have worked with some family members of mine that are really interested in it, that are wanting to come aboard. They just keep messaging me when this is gonna turn on, so.
If you turn around and look behind you, Chief Thompson can train a police officer, but he's having a hard time hiring them. So, I don't mean to speak for you, Chief, sorry, but I know they're way down on.
Another plug for critics, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So it's like, regardless of your ability to train in today's market, right, we're worried about being able to hire anybody. Councilwoman Garvey asked a great question. What about the wages, right? Maybe the new people aren't going to get the wages that they think they're going to get, so they choose not to go with a labor job. And if we can't get the staff, we're dead in the water. You two can't do it on your back, the whole project.
I think you're correct. I think, but comparing the police department, that's a skill that's definitely needed for obviously protection, but that's going to pose passing, you know what I mean? Not that these guys have any less than a police officer, you know?
I'd say more apples to apples. If the water department, do they have as hard of a time hiring people as the police? Like, that's more apples to apples than comparing us to not everyone wants to be a police officer. Like, there's people out there that can come and run a backhoe and stuff, so I think that's more apples to apples with the water department versus the police department.
All right, council.
So I will again make the motion to approve the requested allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Water and Fiber Optics Department.
Second.
It's motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilwoman Garvey?
Nay.
Councilman Brennan?
Can you come back to me?
Yep. Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
What? You can call my name.
Oh, sorry, Councilman Brennan. You said come back, sorry, waiting.
I knew this table up here would be split, I think, just because Councilwoman Garvey and I have always kind of been the ones leading the charge and asking questions and trying to figure it all out. I ended up kind of getting in line with the fiber project based on the information we've been given over the last few years. However, I always think everybody needs to have appropriate time to research and to make sound decisions, and when that voice has been spoken that they're not really ready, I can't help but support that. So at this time, I'm going to vote nay.
Copy that. Mayor votes aye. Run down to item L, pass resolution 02-223R authorizing the purchase issuance of sale of local improvement district number 1 bond anticipated note.
So I again will make a motion to pass resolution 202R authorizing the purchase, issuance, and sale of local improvement district number 1, the bond anticipation note.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Brennan?
Just for the time being, nay.
Councilwoman Garvey?
Nay.
All right, mayor votes aye. Run down to recognizing persons in the audience. You would like to get up for 3 minutes? Hearing none, we'll go.
Anybody else?
You
Take a second seat.
want to go first, ma'am?
Yeah, let her go.
Can I come up?
You bet.
Okay, this is in your future, but I wanna put red flags in the ground before I even start thinking about it. I'm talking about the casino project.
Ma'am, what's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Eva Schmidt, 1475 North Haskett, Mountain Home, 587-9248.
I'm gonna go in the order of my personal experience with this project. During the summer, it was like, hey, there might be a casino coming your way. I was, perhaps yes, perhaps no. And I started researching a little bit, and it turns out that this is a big project to be absorbed in a small community. And what I hear in the community, because I'm a chatterbox, believe it or not, people are saying, well, I don't know if that's a good idea, but nobody really steps up and starts fighting, and I'm here to fight. So, my research showed that the moving in of a casino raises the crime rate by about 8 to 10%. Crime rate being car theft, opportunistic crimes, burglaries, you name it. It is easier absorbed in communities that are more urban. I think we are rural. And so people tell me that it's not Vegas. We're not going to have people with blackjacks and so forth. It's all going to be machines and screens. And I'm thinking that the one-armed bandit is going to take your money as fast as the next person. And the machines are designed to raise your dopamine. All you have to do is watch your kids play video games. And so the chances of people getting addicted are actually quite high. So there's people who say, oh, this is all personal responsibility and so forth. And I think it's a slippery slope. I want to warn about this, and it is where when people get in trouble, they get financially not quite as steady as they want to be, and that perpetuates into the community. It's like a pebble, you throw it into a pond and it makes ripples. It goes into the family, it goes into children, and we are a community that is really, I think, quite solid. And why do we want this? So, all picking up people who get themselves into trouble actually costs money. I don't want to be on top of this podium, that's difficult. So, I don't want to fault the people who get financially overextended, and I just want to point out that gambling is not a victimless crime. It's just like prostitution, it has consequences, and I'm putting up a warning sign. It affects the family, it affects vulnerable people, and I'm not for it really. So at this point, when it was like, it's in the, let's just play with the idea, are we going to absorb it? There are communities like Eagle and Nampa that start saying, no, we don't need that. Eagle turned down our project. Nampa just raised the rate for irrigation water. I mean, we don't need to be part of the people who just swallow that stuff. So, and then came the open house, where I started being in Betsy's ear just about every second day, because in the open house, I encountered something that I hadn't expected. The people were extremely well organized, they were well spoken, they had their act together, they were professional, smooth. It's like, whoa, something. That was a little bit, I mean, I was surprised. Good for them, no problem. And so it was organized in stations, and the first, let me say that before, that it was called open house, but in the end, what I encountered was these smooth people who really weren't forthcoming. You could ask questions, and then if it didn't please them, they would slip and slide around and not take responsibility or in ways that I think they should have. So the first station was the historic rundown, all the treaties, blah, blah, blah. And Mr. Peterson was in charge of this, and he said that the property was bought without any promises. Do I believe it? I don't know. And I don't believe it because I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
You're fine, you're good, you're fine.
Because I believe the tribe knew full well that they were under what is called the Fort Hall Agreement for water allocation for the, this is the title, 1990 Fort Hall Indian Water Rights. And that's a treaty that actually grants them zero water in our aquifer. Zero, not a drop. So please let me come back to that. So that handout, that was smoothed over. There were no promises and no mention of the Fort Hall Agreement in the poster. Okay. Second station was the layout and pretty pictures, what it was gonna be. And at one point, they were gonna have a racetrack that was gonna be not happening anymore, and the racetrack is still in there. So it's like, this is a moving target. And the whole construction is already all figured out. They're gonna go with a New York company, and they're gonna go with them because they have the financing all worked out for them. So that doesn't even give us jobs anymore. It's not something that's responsive to the community. Then, the next, so that was, I think I was disappointed that the architecture didn't take the landscape into account, no nothing. But he didn't want to be pinned down, that this is what's gonna be, so this was another moving target. And the third one, the third station was what I call the legal station. It was lining out what they wanted to do, what their goal was, and I also asked them about what responsibilities they feel towards the community. None. I mean, that caused them a giggle that I thought, well, are you considering people who get addicted to gambling? Well, we might put up a poster. So it was like, these people are after their profit. They think they're gonna take 30 million out. They promise jobs that if you push them who the workforce is, they don't know where they're gonna be, where they're gonna come from. So it's all very, very slippery, slimy. And I don't know if we should sign on this, actually. I mean, really, I don't think we should sign on. But let me get back to the water problems. I first thought that it was the county problem, that this was the county's project, and I'm sure the county is going to approve whatever they want to approve because they see dollar signs. What is really where Mountain Home is coming in is with the water problem. In the handout, it said that Mountain Home is going to give the development, the casino, its water. I remember last summer when we didn't have enough water, when there was like conserve, we don't want to go to rationing and so forth. We do not have enough water. The aquifer is losing more water than it's gaining or making back. So in the end, the water is going to be the, oh God, in German it's called der springende Punkt, where the core of the problem is. It's going to be the water. If they get the land in trust, which is what they want, because then they don't have to pay taxes on their profit and so forth and so on, then if we give them water, we have no power. If they get the land in trust, they're gonna make their profit, feel no responsibility to the community, even if they might say something like that. I don't get the impression that they are actually committed to working with the community. If they don't get the land in trust, that changes the picture, because at that point they are an enterprise like any other, and we should actually exercise a lot of control at that point. We can make the project smaller, we can do what, I mean, that gives us the power. But, yeah. Yes, I was very, very disappointed at the people I met and what it actually means to our community. I want to throw up warning signs that yes, there might be jobs coming. If they sound very secure and sure of their jobs and whatnot, I'm thinking, that's really not right. Are they going to get their supplies from Jim's Lumber? I doubt it. Perhaps Fastenal a little bit. What do I know? But I mean, really, truly, I have not gotten the impression that they want to work with the community. And I feel sorry for the man that's responsible for Public Works, because I think he got suckered into this like anything. They did not come out and say we have no right to any water in this aquifer. So it's the water, and it depends. It's the water.
Thank you. Thanks, Eva.
I don't know if I said everything I wanted to say, but a good part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilman Brennan?
just for the record, one of the last times I left City Hall, Eva caught me outside and handed me packets to give to every council member. They're still in my car. I haven't done that yet. I apologize, but I'll get them to everybody soon. And it was about the water for the casino. I'll get it to you so you can deliver it.
Research, and then the open house happened. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Copy that. Sir?
I can cram 1 minute of information into 3. So we'll see how it goes. How you doing?
Good, how are you, Joe?
I'm going to hand those out when I, a little at a time. Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Joe Uhas. I live at 1675 Queens Court here in the city, and I'd like to take a little of your time to make some comments on the city parking ordinance. I've reviewed it several times. I have my own issues, but I think it's time to tweak it a little and maybe even update it in some areas. Pictures 1 and 2, Tiffany, if you'll pass them up there.
Yeah.
Okay, they got them. Nowhere in the ordinance is it address slide outs for motorhomes and campers. And you'll see in one of the pictures, you'll see a motorhome or a trailer with a slide out, and another enclosed trailer next across the street from it. Well, that's possible. What drew my attention was the other guy across the street had a motorhome or a trailer with a slide out also. You couldn't get a bicycle through there. At night, I almost had a friend hit it because there's no illumination on these things. There's no reflectors. There's nothing. He came in there in a minivan. Of course, it's higher than he is, and so he almost clips the thing. And he brought it to my attention that, somebody ought to do something about this. Well, I looked at the ordinance. There's nothing in there that addresses it. And I think that's one area that could be updated, because Nowadays, almost everything has a slide out of some sort or another. I think personally that bunching every towed vehicle, trailer, motorhome into one section in the ordinance it needs to be separated. Motorhomes and pool trailers that are campers might require a little more time to set up, break down after the trip and so forth, but I think 72 hours is ridiculous. Nobody needs 72 hours, roughly 3 days, to hook up a camper and pull it out of there. It doesn't need to be sitting on the street. And I bring that up because if it's sitting on the street for 72 hours, he takes it off for 2 days, it comes back for 72 hours, you're talking 6 days out of 8 where it's sitting on the street. Okay, I'll get to that a little bit later. So I think a separation, and maybe this was done for brevity, I don't know in the ordinance. I don't know the history of it, but when you put every towed vehicle or a motorhome in one category, I think it causes this problem. You've got time limits for everybody the same. It doesn't take 72 hours to set up a snowmobile trailer or a small enclosed work trailer, whatever it might be. I think that's excessive. I think 48 hours is more than ample time for a small trailer like that to be set up, pulled down, whatever, and moved out of the way. So I have a situation, and I'm not going to go into any names or anything like that, but this guy uses the ordinance, abuses the ordinance, to fit his storage capacity. He stores a trailer 72 hours here, brings it back for 72 hours. He takes it over there for 72 hours. And you can see in those pictures, one of them is on my street on Queens Court. He'll keep it there for 72 hours. Sometimes he's over, sometimes he's under. Then he takes over onto Castle Way, and you can see in the picture, you can see from his driveway, which is where the picture was taken from, it's across the street, basically. So I say, look at the ordinance and it says 500 feet. Who up there can tell me how to measure 500 feet? For ordinance purposes.
I got a wheel.
Okay, how do you do it? Straight line, curvature of the street, GPS, direct point, how do you do it? No one in the police department could tell me. I had Griggs come over when he was still active. He couldn't tell me the answer. So how do I measure it?
How do you measure it, Paul?
With the curvature of the street, you go along the curb line.
Okay,
That's how we do it.
but that's not in the ordinance. So what is your legal ramifications? If I make a complaint and you say it's,
If I'm the judge, I would say if you're measuring 500 feet, and in order to make it 500 feet, you have to trespass through other people's properties, then I'm not going to honor that.
okay, I see your point. My point is, it's not defined. And so he uses this as a shell game, this short 500-foot restriction on distance and or the next block, whatever is in the ordinance, and I can read it to you if you want me to store his trailer. And he uses it for no other purpose except to store it from one location to another. And so it's in front of my house 6 out of 8 days a month, parked in front of the house. He can't put it on his own property because it's too big. It hangs out in the street. I don't know whether he wants to pay another location or not. So that's the shell game he plays. This is not a short-term thing. He's been doing this since July. So it's gotten under my skin. I don't want to have drive up to my house and all I see is a 24-foot enclosed trailer sitting in front of it that doesn't belong to me. I crammed 1 minute of information into 3, so you go.
Thanks, Joe. Oh, go ahead.
May I ask him some questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Do you have a proposed change on how you'd like to see it worded?
I would, but I would have to think about it a little bit. You talking about 500 feet? How do you want?
Just whatever your solution is. You also mentioned like you don't want a trailer in front of your house, right?
Right.
Or I would imagine you might feel the same about a vehicle constantly parked in front of your house.
No, I don't.
No?
No, I don't,
Okay.
because a vehicle is more than a utilitarian type thing that doesn't have to be, it has to be there. Somebody's using it. Nobody's using this trailer for 3 days. You don't even open the door on it. There's a difference there between use and abuse. And I think parking a trailer in that situation is an abuse of the ordinance.
Does it change your mind if it is used on a daily business capacity?
Then he's got a reason to use it. It's addressed in the ordinance. If he's got an active business concern and/or a building permit, there's an exception in there for that. And that's fine. If he's following the ordinance, what's the problem? But he's following it to abuse it, and that's my concern. Does that answer your question? The 500 feet, I would definitely extend it, so that he can't use the round the corner, which you can see from his driveway, and I took the picture from his driveway. I was in my vehicle, but I took it across, how far he's got to move that vehicle. I would make it something more, so that you can use the block thing in there, but you gotta, in my opinion, I would increase the distance that he has to move that trailer. I talked to the mayor one time, and people were moving him an inch. Well, it was moved. Well, yeah, but does that really satisfy the intent of the ordinance?
Mayor,
Councilman,
that does take care of that problem, but it doesn't take care of this slide outs. Because that is a problem. Because you got a cord half the time going across there, you got steps going down on the sidewalk to where somebody walking down the street on the sidewalk cannot even pass it without dodging something. To where
Well, it could have been.
putting something up is one thing, but when you're there and it's 2 or 3 days sitting there with the side out opened and cord running across it, that's a little far-fetched, I will agree.
Yeah, and it's a dangerous situation. It's more of a traffic danger than anything, because anybody in a vehicle could easily clip that thing at night, because you don't see it, and face it, a lot of us old geezers don't see as well as we used to. So
And that is.
it's going to happen sooner or later, if it hasn't happened already.
No, there's no reflection whatsoever on it.
No, there's no strip lighting, there's no nothing.
So Joe, I'll tell you real quick, Chief and we dealt with one of these fun things, for last week. So, we take all this into consideration. So so it's, I know in front of the house is, anybody can walk in there, can park a vehicle there. Is there anything statutorily through the Idaho code that we're not allowed to do?
No, we have pretty much, our police powers are pretty, we hold a lot of power as far as how we wish to regulate the use of trailers and RV parking, et cetera, et cetera.
So Joe, can you get us a list of what you would like to see, as Councilman Brennan was, wanting to know, and then we'll get it to our ordinance guy, and
I wrote
then
it down,
right,
I wrote it down, what he said so far.
and
I don't
then
agree on treating different trailers differently. If the police, so our legitimate governmental objective, for example, with, if we don't want to have, because it inhibits the passability of vehicles driving on the street. And so if we want to do that, I don't care if it's an RV or a travel trailer or a fifth wheel or, and then the point about it, we want to build an exception in for work vehicles while they're being used for work. That's different, but I understand exactly what you're going through. I've fixed this in many different cities before. It comes up pretty regularly.
I think you're missing my point. The point is,
I'm
I
not
don't
so
mind.
smart, so maybe.
Well, I'm not going to go into that. If you, motorhome and a travel trailer that require more setup time, they might require a battery charge. So you might want to have it on the street for a little longer time in addition to stocking it up or whatever you're going to do. A utility trailer, let's say it's a car hauler, you sure as hell don't need 72 hours to put a car on it and tow it away. And that's why I'm separating it by the type of vehicle it is versus the time limit. You might want to have a little more time for a motorhome or something like that. But for a...
But that runs counter to the pop-outs, because those are also the ones that are going to have the pop-outs.
Well, you can address that in that subsection if you wanted to. That's up to you, how you want to phrase it.
So
But all
Paul-
I'm saying is.
Sorry, Joe. So Paul, you got a couple of things that you could throw to the council and pick, have them give you.
You guys decide.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Welcome. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mayor Council, Stuart Crenshaw, 315 Southeast Sunrise. Just on a personal note, Councilwoman Garvey and Councilman Brennan, I want to thank you both for your due diligence in your pursuit of it. I know it's easy to rush exciting decisions, and I appreciate that you both take your time and are looking for answers on things.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hold on, the media just said something complimentary?
Personal, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, okay, that's right.
All right. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I'll be quick.
That's what everybody says.
I know, right? I promise. Brandon McCarthy, 890 East 14th North. Just on the subject of parking and trailers and everything on the street, something I've noticed, and I could be that I just don't know. I've noticed the street sweeper's been going around, and is there a schedule or anything that's put out, or is it advertised when it's going? Because at least in my neighborhood, I've noticed, street sweepers going in and out between cars and everything, and to me, I'm like, well, if we could somehow communicate that to the city through the Facebook or however to get that out so that we're saving, Gene and all them time for that, because, I would hate to be in the street sweeper and have to go, well, I'm gonna come back in 2 weeks because, there's a trailer here and 6 cars here and that. So just something I thought maybe the city would be interested in. Like I said, I don't know if there's a schedule or if it has been advertised, but just nothing that I've seen. So just kind of wanted to bring that up on that topic, so.
And I'll see what we can do with Gene and his crew. They're out every morning real early, so if we can get that out, and then maybe we tell people during that. Facebook, this block is, we're coming down these 4 or 5 blocks this morning, move your car, trailers.
Right, yeah, whatever we can do to save them time and money, because I know it takes 3-4 times, to pick up that material than when they threw it, just dirt and everything like that. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Final comments? Anything, council? Councilman Brad?
I'm gonna do my thing where I probably make a lot of people mad at me here. But I said this once before when this parking decision or discussion came up a few years back, and I know it's definitely not the popular thing, but I would love to have it so every homeowner has the right to park in front of their property, and they can keep everybody else from it. But that's just me. When I'm pulling did he leave? Yeah. When I'm pulling my trailer up with my truck and trailer to load or unload, and somebody else is there, man, it's frustrating. But just for the record, like if the law would allow that, I'd be all over it.
I agree with you.
I'm just gonna say, you're not gonna get any argument from me.
Chief had like that one.
Where's the only one who said?
Yep. It's all public right away.
Public right. That's the word I was looking for. Public right away. All right. Anything else? All right.